Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1794B, and today's date is February 18th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Something Big is About to Happen, Deep State Trapped and Desperate. Now, before we get started, did you ever want to keep track of your personal belongings? Well, now you can with Track It Home's T2 GPS tracker. It is also equipped with a listen-in feature that allows you to listen to activities going on around the device. This device is great to keep tabs on elderly loved ones that need special care, your rowdy pets that like to wander off, and also great to place inside luggage. It's a one-time purchase for this device, and once activated, you can keep track of wherever in the world it is located via Track It Home's mobile app. A free download. Visit trackithome.net and use promo code X22 for 20% off your purchase. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as we can see, the truth is coming out, and the deep state, they are in a panic and they are becoming very, very desperate. You smell the fear. They understand what is happening. And Q has been dropping a lot of bread, more than I've ever seen before. And we're going to be going through part of that today. We'll do the other part tomorrow. But let's start off with Christopher Steele here. He won't meet with the Senate Intel Committee. And it looks like those on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, they are not satisfied with Christopher Steele with his written response. They want him to appear in front of the committee. Now, I know why he's afraid to do this, because everything that he has done, it is completely falling apart around him. The whole entire Russian collusion, the dossier, everything that we've been hearing for such a long time, and everyone believed in it. And I'm not talking about the Annans. I'm not talking about people who are listening to the alternative media. I'm talking about the rest of the public that have been listening to the mainstream media. They're scratching their heads saying, well, wait a minute. The Senate came out and said there's no Russian collusion. Adam Schiff is out there saying, well, maybe there isn't Russian collusion. It's not criminal, but we're going to have to take the investigations into the House. Their narrative is falling apart, and they don't know what to do. They're becoming very, very desperate here because they realize that once the D-class comes out and the truth comes out, that's it for them. And everything that they tried to do to take Trump and push him out of office, it's not working. They're still trying. They're still trying to make a case for this, but it's not going to work. Now, this is very interesting because the mainstream media has been reporting that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she's back in court, and they told us that she attended a concert, but we have not seen any photos. The last article from the New York Times, the headline says, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg returns to work at Supreme Court. They showed a picture of her, but this is not a current picture. This is an old picture. So this is actually a picture from November. Where is a current picture? This is very odd that they do not produce a current picture of her either at the concert or in the court system or at least someplace. So people will say, okay, there she is. Usually when you hide something like this and you don't put out a current picture, something is up. So far, still, we have no proof whatsoever. And this is strange that there are still no pics. Very odd. Now, we see the IMF. They are discreetly prepping for massive aid packages for the day after Maduro is removed from his presidency. And we understand that the IMF from WikiLeaks, they are weaponized by the deep state. And none of this is coincidence. And we know that Trump started the ball rolling with saying that Juan Guaido, he is the new president of Venezuela. Once again, we know this is not how it works. But I do believe that Trump and the Patriots, they created this movement on purpose. And he continually points at Venezuela saying, listen, we don't want to be a socialist country like Venezuela. He warns against it. Actually, when he was giving his speech, he was saying that the United States will never become a socialist society. But we need to think of the deep state. We need to think of the Dems. This is actually what they wanted. Now, we understand that Rubio, Bolton, Pompeo, they are pushing this very, very hard. And we know that Rubio is behind a lot of this. And I do believe that Trump and the Patriots, they are monitoring all these individuals, just like they did with McMaster's, just like they did with Mattis, just like they did with every other person. They watch, they observe, and they record, and they collect evidence. They need to understand who they can trust and who they cannot trust. They might have ideas. They might understand that maybe we should not trust them. But putting everything into action allows everyone to see exactly what is going on. And I do believe Trump and the Patriots are going to continually push this till the very, very end. And we've heard in the past that Maduro is in secret meetings with the U.S., and I think this is going to happen where Maduro, the president, they come to some sort of an agreement. And you need to think back to North Korea and Syria. I mean, there was at one point in Syria where Trump was firing missiles into Syria, and the mainstream media, even some alternative media, they were all out there saying, oh my God, he's doing exactly what the neocons were doing, what the deep state was doing. They're going to remove Assad. We're going to be bringing troops in there. And actually, the opposite happened. The same thing with North Korea. It looked really, really bad, and it looked like he was pushing very, very hard to start a war or do something, and then all of a sudden, everything was turned around with a snap of a finger. And then all of a sudden, Trump started to remove certain key players after that, after both, because they started to realize, who can we trust, who can't we trust? And I believe this is exactly what is going on right now. Now, out in Syria, we understand that the Islamic State, they were paid mercenaries. They were created by the deep state. That was their army they used to invade Syria, take out Assad. They also control Al-Qaeda, Al-Sham, Al-Nusra, and the rest. And Trump recently just tweeted out the following. The United States is asking Britain, France, Germany, and other European allies to take back over 800 Islamic State fighters that we captured in Syria and put them on trial. The caliphate is ready to fall. The alternative is not a good one in that we will be forced to release them. The U.S. does not want to watch as these Islamic State fighters permeate Europe, which is where they are expected to go. We do so much and spend so much. Time for others to step up and do the job that they are so capable of doing. We are pulling back after 100% caliphate victory. So think about it. The Islamic State, these are paid mercenaries. Trump is saying, listen, take back your fighters. They belong to you. And if you don't take them back and do something with them, we're just going to release them, and they're going to be pretty darn angry, and they're going to head up to your area. So already, the Islamic State, their area that they can control right now is around 700 square meters. At the height of the Islamic State, they held or they controlled an area the size of Great Britain and ruled over 10 million people. Now they rule over nothing. So because of Russia, because of Trump and the Patriots, they were able to get rid of the deep state army, the paid mercenaries in Syria. And we're seeing the troops, they are withdrawing from Syria. They're going to be withdrawing from Afghanistan. Actually, we're going to see a lot of troops coming back to the United States. Let's get into some of Q's posts here. This is post 2754. Q gave us a map of the United States, and we have green states and brown states. The brown states allow illegal immigrants to obtain a driver's license, which means they have a valid ID to what? Vote. So Q also gave us a Twitter link to Hawk230555136. This is a picture of all the country, this is full or partially democratic countries, that require ID to register to vote or cast a ballot on election day in all districts. So when you look at this, you can see there's Iceland, Sweden, New Zealand, Denmark, Canada, the UK, and the only, out of all these countries, the United States is the only one that doesn't require a voter ID. And under this, it says it's very simple. Without the illegal vote, D's lose. Previous illegal immigration, high population versus D win by county provided. Example 2. Why do Ds push for illegals to obtain a driver's license? Does having a driver's license make it easier to vote? Yes, it does. In those states, it makes it easier because you have an ID. So Q gave us a link to ncsl.org. This is an article, States Offering Driver License to Immigrants. Let me read a little bit about this. 12 states and the District of Columbia enacted laws to allow unauthorized immigrants to obtain a driver's license. These states are California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, Vermont, and Washington. Issue a license if an applicant provides certain documentation such as a foreign birth certificate, a foreign passport, or a consular card and evidence of current residency in the state. Oregon enacted S833 that provided driver license for unauthorized immigrants in 2013, but the following year, voters approved a ballot measure 88 that suspended the law by 67 to 33%. So what states provide DLs, which is driver's license, to illegals? California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, Vermont, and Washington. What checks are in place within each of the DL granted states to prevent 2, 3, 4, 5 times voting? None. Compare versus 2016 presidential election results. So if we look at the map, we see green and brown states. The brown states are the states that offer driver license to illegal immigrants. What do you notice? Q says. Clinton won the states that allow driver licenses to illegals. Do you believe in coincidences? Memes are important. Hashtag facts matter. Q. Post 2755. Q put up everything from post 2754. And under this, put up a picture of another map. And this is blue states and red states. So Q posted this map of the Electoral College voting in 2016. What does it show? It shows that the states Hillary Clinton won, these are in blue. The states Trump won are in red. Q is letting us know that those states that allow driver's licenses to illegals and those states that are sanctuary states, these are the states that Clinton won in. Post 2756. And Anon put up the following and asked a question. Ask you if the black population is waking up, and says, why do Ds want to control the black pop? Why do they intentionally keep poor and in need? Because they can control them. Why do Ds project racism on a daily basis against Rs, Republicans? Why do black elected officials do the crazy talk on behalf of Ds? How do Ds cover up the historical facts of forming the Confederacy? So down below this, Q says that the black population, they are waking up. And it says date posted early, October 31st, 2017. Prior to the black population awakening, why did we emphasize as important? When you are awake, we can see clearly. Q. So the Dems tried to control the black population in the beginning of Trump's presidency, but it failed. And the black population is now waking up, and they're starting to understand what has been happening here. Post 2757 put everything from 2756 and said, swap we for you. Now, if we go back to the prior post, Q says, when you are awake, we can see clearly. So Q is saying, listen, swap we for you. So it reads as follows. When you are awake, you can see clearly. Q said, on the move. Q is just basically letting us know that there was a grammatical mistake in that sentence. Post 2758. And Annan put up 2 posts by Q and noticed something very interesting. The posts were a minute apart and they coincided with Trump's tweets, and they were less than a minute apart. And under this, it says, yet another blatant Q proof, 00 Delta Trump team is with us today, friends. Q says, we love our memes, don't we, folks? And actually, this is Q+, which means the president just responded. Post 2759. And Anon put up Trump's tweet, put up Q's post, put up Q's post, and Trump's tweet. And this is the breakdown of the times of the tweets and the posts. Q posted at 1:28 p.m. Trump tweeted at 1:28 p.m. Yes, there are a couple seconds after this, but they got it down to minutes. Q posted at 1:29. Trump tweeted at 1:29. They were a couple seconds apart, but this was very close to zero. And it says 0 deltas, guys, 2. Under this, it says Q plus, means the president confirmed, yes, his tweet and Q, they are very, very close. Seconds apart, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Post 2760. And Anna decided to create a side-by-side graphic of the maps so we can see the picture more clearly. And this is the states that allow driver's license and the electoral college map and the places where Clinton won and where Trump won, and put them side by side. Q says, you are the news now, that we understand what happened in the election. Post 2761. And Annan created a graphic to make it easier to see the Q proof. This shows the latest Q delta by Trump and Q and previous one from February 10th. So this is a whole entire graphic showing the 0 delta, showing how close it is, and this is mathematically impossible to do it this many times. And under this it says 0 delta from today and the last 0 delta. The Annan confirms there has been 16 total now for 0 delta posts for Q and Trump. Under this it says, thank you, Patriot, Q. Post 2762. Q says, think about what separated both maps, 2 posts instead of placing both in the original. At what point is it mathematically impossible? Q is letting us know that the maps were separated on purpose to show how Q and Trump are completely in sync. They did this on purpose. Post 2763. Another Annan showed both graphics next to each other, where it had the green and the brown was those states that Clinton won in that allowed driver's license, and the blue and the red showing, the electoral college, and Q says good stuff. Post 2764. And Anna decided to make a GIF showing the map as it overlapped the other map. So it's going back and forth, and Q said, great work, Patriot. Slowing will further highlight it. I mean, it's moving very quickly right now, but if you slow it down, you can see it. It overlaps absolutely perfectly. Post 2765. Q post 2444 letting us know the Senate meant everything. And it says, we've got what we needed. Thank you, Patriots. Senate means everything. Think judges, Supreme Court, and Cabinet. D-class overrides all potential House blockades. POTUS has ultimate authority. Shift to Senate judiciary oversight from House to now occur. Stronger position and held in reserve for this scenario. Lower chamber House used as 2-year starter. Upper chamber Senate will be used next to 2-year closer. Military planned. No impact. Ongoing investigations. Team is stronger. Pro in brackets and bold. Under this, Q gave us an article. And the article is Graham calls McCabe comments beyond stunning as he threatens to subpoena former FBI chief. Was this planned? Yes, it was. The investigation that are being started in the House as an insurance policy and to keep the Russian collusion story in the mainstream media, well, they're going to be coming to an end. And when the D-class occurs, Q is letting us know that these investigations, they will completely disappear and they are not a threat. Post 2766. Q gives us post 2681 with the countdown 30, 45, 60, 90. And in this post discusses other things like Barr, Whitaker, Huber. And Q gives us an article to Politico. And it says Whitaker to stay at Justice Department following stint as acting Attorney General. Q says Whitaker remains Department of Justice Senior Staff. Yes. Senior Counselor in the Associate Attorney General's Office. Yes. Planned. Yes. So Whitaker is staying, and now we have Attorney General Barr. Of course, we already knew this because Q told us this in previous posts. Post 2767. Q put, at Snowden, what happens when Russia gives you up? Will the CIA protect you? Sleep is important. Now, if we go back in time to early Q posts, we realize that Snowden was pushed out onto the mainstream media to almost everywhere, and they wanted us to think of him as a hero. He was not. Snowden was a clown, a CIA asset. His mission was to discredit the NSA so the CIA would rule as the intelligence organization and rule over all of them. If we go back to post 731, Q says, what if Snowden was still a clown? Why would it be important? He was in Russia. Learn. Post 2756. When did Snowden breach NSA and publicly release cripple intel gathering ability on the NSA? NSA was the target. And looks like Q is saying, listen, when all this starts to fall apart, the CIA is not going to help you. And you can see from this post, Q is saying, sleep is important. What happens when Russia gives you up? Well, it looks like he'll be heading back here and he will be in trouble. His protection will be gone. Post 2768. Q puts up pictures of Jussie Smollett with the Obamas, with other individuals, showing with Kamala Harris, showing the connection between all these individuals. Put up an article by Fox News, and this is Cory Booker withholding judgment on Smollett case after calling it attempted modern-day lynching. Now, Q says Harris and Booker applying political pressure, R.E. Chicago Police Department, R.E. Smollett false flag case. They are trying to push pressure, but it looks like it might not be working. What bill did the Senate recently pass, R.E. lynching? The Senate on Thursday cleared legislation to make lynching a federal crime. Who were the authors of the bill? The bill was introduced by Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Tim Scott. What false flag event took place just prior to the passing of the bill? Jussie Smollett attacked and a noose was found around his neck. Did the false flag event involve a noose? Yes. They needed to push the new bill. This is what the deep state does. They use events to push their bills. Q says, did the false flag event sway senators in the decision to prevent fake news attacks, R.E. Smollett case? Well, this is what they hope for. They hope that this false flag, the fake news, would sway senators. Did fake news contact many senators prior to votes seeking out pro-nay in attempt to coerce using Smollett case as a foundation for possible future smears? What is the mathematical probability of these two events occurring within the same time period? Mathematically impossible. What is the relationship of Smollett and Booker and Harris? They all know each other. Will Rahm Emanuel get involved? We'll have to wait and see. Will the Chicago Police Department cave under pressure? Hopefully not. It doesn't seem that they are right now because it's coming out that this whole thing was a complete hoax. These people are sick. Hashtag Wake Up America Q. And we can see that this whole thing is backfiring on these people. CNN's Ana Navarro, well, she deleted her tweet about Jussie Smollett attack. Her tweet read as follows. I saw Jussie Smollett in Miami last week. I can't believe this happened. It is sad and disgusting and deplorable. Empire star Jussie Smollett beaten in homophobic attack by MAGA supporters. Now, why did she delete this if this was true? She deleted it because it's turning out to be a hoax, and they're trying to hide what they were tweeting out. Nancy Pelosi deleted her tweet also. Her tweet read as follows. The racist, homophobic attack on Jussie Smollett is an affront to our humanity. No one should be attacked for who they are or whom they love. I pray that Jussie has a speedy recovery and that justice is served. May we all commit to ending this hate once and for all. Why did she delete her tweet if this is all true? It turns out that it's a hoax. So we're finding out that Jussie Smollett paid for the rope. The Nigerian brothers were paid $3,500 before leaving for Nigeria and were promised another $500 as soon as they returned back to the U.S. According to sources, Jussie Smollett and the two Nigerian brothers rehearsed the MAGA attack. Sources said one of the brothers held the rope and poured bleach while the other wore a plain red hat and yelled racist and homophobic slurs at Smollett. Smollett also had the Nigerian brothers purchase 2 red ball caps from Uptown Beauty Supply to wear during the attack so they would appear to be Trump supporters. It was reported Saturday night that the Chicago Police Department is no longer looking at Empire State Jussie Smollett as a victim in this alleged assault, but rather as an active participant. It's all falling apart. So what does Jussie Smollett do? Well, he's refusing to be questioned by the Chicago Police Department and has hired the services of a crisis management firm amid reports he staged the attack last month. Do you think he's guilty of all this? Absolutely. It is falling apart around them. Post 2769. Q put everything up from post 2768, all the pictures and everything, and down below gave us a quick history lesson. 13th Amendment, abolish slavery. 100% Republican support, 23% Democratic support. 14th Amendment, gave citizenship to freed slaves. 94% Republican support, 0% Democratic support. 15th Amendment, right to vote for all. 100% Republican support, 0 Democratic support. Q says, irony? Post 2770. Q says, how do you infiltrate the mainstream media? Example 1. ABC News exec producer Ian Cameron married to Susan Rice, National Security Advisor to Obama, Hussein. CBS News CNN journalist Biana Vilavana married to Peter R. Orzag, Director of Office Management Budget under Hussein. CBS News President David Rhodes, brother of Ben Rhodes, National Security Advisor under Hussein. ABC News correspondent Claire Shipman married to Jay Carney, White House Press Secretary, Hussein. Mainstream media equals arm extension of the D Party. Nothing to see here. Q. The D Party and the mainstream media are related in some form or another. Post 2771 gave us an article from Time.com. Most influential people on the internet. Q says they knew the reach then. Think about it now. So when you scroll down this article, you see that one of the individuals is Trump. The other individual is Q. And Q is saying, well, when this article was written back then, think of the reach then, think of it now. It's that much bigger. Post 2772, Inanam put up a picture of Trump that was in the Time article, put up the picture of Q that was in the Time article, then gave us the individuals that Q just mentioned about who's married to who and what network they work for, and gave us a picture graphic so we can put all the pieces together and see all these individuals. And Q under this says, the world is waking up to the truth. Expect attacks to dramatically intensify and cross all platforms. And that's exactly what's going to happen, because when the truth comes out, what do? They try to squash the truth and they attack. Post 2773. And Annan found another tweet that showed another Q proof. Trump tweeted out the following: the Mueller investigation is totally conflicted, illegal and rigged, should never have been allowed to begin except for the collusion and many crimes committed by the Democrats. Witch hunt. Under this, it says, new POTUS tweet, 1 minute Delta. Q says to the Annan, 3 today. What are the odds of that? Q. Odds are mathematically impossible. Post 2774. Q says, graphic request 3 Q POTUS 0 Delta Q. And Annan responded to Q and created the graphic to show the tweets, to show the posts, to show how all this has come together and how Trump, Q are posting and tweeting pretty much at the same time. And under this it says, "Well done, Patriot. Important to note, Q drops just prior to POTUS. Something big is coming. Q." What that is, we don't know as of yet. Post 2776. Q posts a discussion between Mueller and Barr. Barr to Mueller. "Bob, show me the evidence and reasoning for why this investigation was started and still ongoing." Mueller to Barr. "With regards to the president, we have found no links or ties to any foreign entity, etc." Barr to Mueller. "Mandate was clear. Verify and investigate reports of possible foreign collusion between president and Russia. What justification existed to effectively launch a massive domestic foreign surveillance campaign against the president, president-elect, president, and members of his transition campaign team?" Mueller to Barr. "Steele dossier along with media corroboration of those findings." Barr to Mueller. "Was the Steele report a trusted and verified report per intel to continue, especially considering the funding party was the opposition party?" Mueller to Barr. "Those facts were never taken into consideration. Fisk granted authority to conduct based on conclusion presented." Barr to Mueller. "Was Fisk made aware of all details surrounding the dossier?" Mueller to Barr. "No. We believe there was urgency placed on the authentication given the gravity and timeline of events that those involved negated to populate fully." Barr to Mueller. "Why were efforts made to continue investigating the president, interrupt his official capacity in governing, if the only doc presented was unsubstantiated and unverified? Why were questions and threat of subpoena communicated to the president if no factual foundation existed? All charges thus far are unrelated to the original mandate. Why are you still active and pursuing a crime if no verifiable evidence or evidence through discovery exists?" Barr to Rod Rosenstein. "What justification did you have to effectively expand the mandate, not report that expansion to Congress in order to seek a crime outside of Russian collusion? What specific reasoning and or facts existed to justify the appointment of a special counsel to begin with per the law? Why did you recommend to Sessions that he should recuse? Why wasn't the mandate budget and regular updates provided to Congress upon request? Why is everything kept confidential and under inappropriate classification? Was the purpose of the investigating to find a crime versus investigate evidence of a crime? Class 1-99. Q." Boom. It's great having an attorney general that wants to get to the bottom of all this. And guess what? The deep state, they can't say anything because the attorney general was voted on. He was put into this position by the Senate. The Senate was the key. Post 2777 put everything from 2776, and down below said, "Disregard any misspelling on the move." Q. Post 2778 put everything from 2776 and put up a Twitter link. "William Barr is arriving at Justice Department that desperately needs an infusion of credibility," writes at Kim Strassel, and there's a link to the Wall Street Journal. This was a tweet by Trump. Under this it says, "Do you believe in coincidences? The kitchen is hot." Now, Lisa Mae Crowley, she tweeted out and explains what it means by the kitchen is hot. A hot kitchen is the area of the kitchen where all the food undergo final prep just before serving. It's the stage where meals are cooked, plated, and garnished just before serving the guest customer. Barr is the chef, and justice will be served. Post 2779. Here we have 3 0 POTUS, 0 Delta graphics once again. Under this it says, "Excellent graphic, Seconds matter. Mathematically impossible. 17th. Now, I do believe this brings us to the total of 17 zero deltas, which happened on February 17th. And we need to remember that Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. So this Annan put up the 17th one. Post 2780. And Annan put up a tweet from CNN. Former acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe says President Trump's own words were among the reasons top officials decided to open a counterintelligence probe and obstruction of justice investigation into him. Under this it says, classic deflection, the dog ate my homework, evidence of a crime is what you need, Mr. FBI, not dislike and bias to open investigation. Q says, dead cat bounce. Nothing can stop this. So now McCabe is trying to backtrack, trying to say, oh, we did this because of Trump, because of what he was saying. No, you need an actual crime. I mean, they were investigating because they didn't like the president. They didn't like what he was about. Guess what? He's getting caught up in his own lies. He's going to start to panic. Well, he's already starting to panic because he already let the truth out. The deep state is trapped. They're desperate right now. Post 2781. And Annan put up this new meme, and it has all the movie posters, and it says enjoy the show, and it says 45 coming soon. Tarmac with Clinton and a plane coming soon. Pfizergate coming soon. Trump 2020 coming soon. Sanctions are coming soon. And under this, Q says impressive, most impressive, Q. Post 2782. Q gave us this graphic of the 4 families, 3 generations, and these families control California. And they are Brown, Pelosi, Newsom, and Getty. And Q says, example, California in brackets in bold, gave us a link to californiamatters.org. And it reads as follows. A long-dominated geriatric quartet from the San Francisco Bay Area, Governor Jerry Brown, Senator Dianne Feinstein, and Barbara Boxer, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, has been slowly ceding power to younger political strivers. 3 generations of corrupt California families who have controlled San Francisco to enrich themselves. And these individuals, their families, they're all married to each other. Crazy. And under this it says, what families run California? Under this it says they're all connected. It looks like it's just one big family, and because they married each other. Wealth, power, influenced. This is in bold and brackets. It is rigged. The more you know. Post 2783. Q gave us a link to Breitbart. The title of this article is CBS Lara Logan on Media Bias. Unless you seek out Breitbart, you won't see the other side. Lara Logan, foreign correspondent for CBS 60 Minutes, said Breitbart News offers the other side of news media relative to what she described as mostly left-wing and partisan Democrat news landscape in the U.S. and abroad. She offered her remarks in an interview published last Friday with Mic Drop podcast, hosted by retired Navy SEAL Mike Ritlin. Ritlin characterized U.S. news media as absurdly left-leaning and supportive of Democrats, further describing the status quo of American news media, left-wing and partisan Democratic bias as huge effing problem and a disaster for this country. Q says it takes courage to speak the truth these days. Q. And Q, before this in that post, showed us that, a couple posts back, that the people running the mainstream media, they are part of the Obama administration. They're married to the top executives of these news organizations. Post 2784 gave us a link to Guardian. Stop the online conspiracy theorists before they break democracy. Cannibals, aliens, clandestine lizards, overlords, thanks to algorithms, such ideas threaten the future of Europe. And it went on to say, organized conspiracy theorist networks have launched an all-out information war across Europe. At the heart of this is QAnon movement. It expanded from the U.S. to Europe and the UK at rapid speed, hijacking political debates on social media as well as mass protests in the streets in recent months. Our new analysts at the Institute of Strategic Dialogue shows that European conspiracy theorists run increasingly sophisticated campaigns around critical junctions in national, regional, and global politics. They even carry out social media operations to influence voters in German state elections, including the 2018 election in Bavaria. Q says, what does fear look like? It looks like this. They're putting out articles to counter QAnon. 30 million use QAnon across censored platforms. Incorrect, much more. The Great Awakening, where we go one, we go all. They can't stop this movement. Remember, a couple posts back, it is almost like V for Vendetta. The truth is coming out. The propaganda, it can't hold up to the truth. Post 2785, and Annan posted the article from the previous post to show the media biased, and went down and showed everything here and showing the media bias to all this. And if you like to read this, you can come to the X22 Report, or you can go to one of the Q sites, which is also listed on the X22 Report. Below this, it says, repost, bread6698. Q says, read between the lines, mainstream media left, research for yourself, trust yourself. No one news location will provide unbiased content. Wake up, facts matter. You are the news now. Post 2786. Q put up a Twitter link from Trump. Trump quoted Don Bongino. This was an illegal coup attempt on the President of the United States. This is at Fox and Friends. Don Bongino on Fox and Friends. True. The President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, agreed that an illegal coup was attempted against him. Stop and understand the gravity of acknowledgement. Do you believe nothing will happen, Q says. Nope. We are entering phase 3 now. Something big is about to happen. Q says, do you believe no one will be prosecuted? Here comes the hammer. The prosecutions are on their way. POTUS making statements for no reason? No. He's been dropping carpet bombs all this time on purpose to get the public ready for the storm. How do you introduce the truth to those still sleeping? A little bit at a time. Allowing people to wake up. D-class coming. The message must be direct. Bypass the non-reporting of truth facts by fake spin the narrative news. Q. So Trump tweeted out the following. After 2 years and interviewing more than 200 witnesses, the Senate Intelligence Committee has not discovered any direct evidence of conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. He continued, wow, so many lies by now disgraced acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe. He was fired for lying, and now his story gets even more deranged. He and Rod Rosenstein, who was hired by Jeff Sessions, another beauty, looked like they were planning a very illegal act and got caught. There was a lot of explaining to do to the millions of people who just elected a president who they really like and who has done a great job for them with the military, vets, economy, and so much more. This was the illegal and treasonous insurance policy in full action. Let's move on to post 2787. And Annan posted a tweet by James Wood, and this says, if these actions were directed against a sitting Democrat president, this would be a Watergate-level story in the national media by now. Was there an attempt by an acting DAG to weaponize the Department of Justice in presidential coup d'etat? Under this, Q says the following. Attempt to isolate at FBI Department of Justice. They're trying to isolate everything to only the FBI and the Department of Justice. Do you believe, Q says, the FBI Department of Justice acted alone? No, they did not act alone. We know this for a fact. It was the Obama administration. It was the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton directed and financed the dossier in order to obtain the bulk so-called evidence in order to generate circulating news articles, think Yahoo, and obtain a FISC sign-off, is it reasonable to think that members of the intel apparatus, State Department, White House, foreign allies, etc., were also involved? The biggest scandal in our known history, a new word for treason, will need to be invented. This is in brackets, bold, all caps. Why does Hussein continue to proudly state his administration was scandal-free? Define projection. He's trying to let everyone know nothing happened under his administration. The scandal went all the way up to his office. Everything was kept behind the curtain. So now the curtain's going to be pulled back, and we're going to see all the corruption in his administration. Post 2788. How can an entity known as only Q, faceless, nameless, fameless, etc., begin to ask questions on 4chan, now 8chan, and build something of this magnitude? How can this same Q entity garner such a massive amount of worldwide mainstream fake news attention attacks? How is it possible this Q entity can forecast future events or know when the POTUS is about to tweet? How is it possible future proofs past are information provided? How is it possible this Q entity, an entity who began by merely asking questions on 4chan, 8chan, was able to fill in the blank, predict what was coming? Now remember, plans change. It wasn't exactly when we thought it was going to happen, but it did happen. Think logically. People are craving truth. People are craving transparency. People are craving equal justice under the law. People are craving good. People are craving right. People are craving true freedom. People are craving safety and security. People are craving fill in the blank. Proofs negate falsehood, conspiracy attacks. Those who attack have an agenda or remain plugged into the biggest disinformation campaign to be ever witnessed. Ask yourself, why are liberals always angry? Why do they curse? Why do they slander, push fake labels, racist, sexist, anything with ist, etc.? Why do they create emotional outbursts when challenged? Why are they violent? Why do they form mobs, packs? Why are they incapable of listening to other side, fascists? When you don't have facts to support your argument, present logical reasoning, you must resort to the above tactics. It's like a child. When the child doesn't want to hear what you're saying, what do? They stamp their feet and they cry and they scream. The narrative is designed to keep people in constant state of fear, thereby forcing anger, rage, violence. Emotionally unstable people are easier to control. They want you divided. Divide by race, divide by class, divide by religion, divide by political affiliation. Divide as human beings. Divided you are weak. Together you are strong. When you are strong, you think for yourself. When you are strong, you challenge what you are told to believe. When you are strong, you are awake. When you are strong, you are no longer controlled. Trust yourself. Trust that you are not alone. Trust that there are good people right beside you fighting for what you know to be right. God bless you all. Where we go one, we go all. Post 2789. Put up the definition for patriot: a person who loves, supports, and defends his or her country and interests with devotion. A person who regards himself or herself as a defender, especially of individual rights, against presumed interference by the federal government. Traitor: a person who betrays another, a cause, or any trust. A person who commits treason by betraying his or her country. Under this it says, fellow patriots, what you are about to learning should not only scare you, but intensify your resolve to take back control, freedom. The information that will become public will further demonstrate the criminal and corrupt, pure evil abuse of power that Hussein administration undertook in joint efforts with domestic and foreign dignitaries. Gave us a link to that Trump video where this speech will get him elected, how he's going to take down the swamp. Where we go one, we go all. Get ready. We're taking back our country. Post 2790 gave us a picture of the American flag. But if you look at the file name of this graphic, it says, God bless the United States of America, _prepare. Get ready. Post 2791. And Annan said the following. Dan Coates out, forced sued. Source equals Trump friend Chris Brody. Under this, it says, and this is from Q, interesting, this leaked already. Q wonders how this info got out. There have been no reports in the media, and Q has not mentioned it yet. And how does this person know? Post 2792 put up a link to the Hill, and this is a tweet actually from the Hill, and it says, Warren, officials have a duty to invoke 25th Amendment if they think Trump can't fulfill presidency. So she is panicking, and they're saying, well, they should invoke the 25th Amendment if they think he can't fulfill his presidency. Remember, the Senate was the key. They need 2/3 of the Senate. It will be blocked. They're trapped. Q says fear is real. Something big is coming. They know what's coming. They are panicking. There is panic in D.C. There's fear. Pain is coming to all. Now, Lisa Mae Crowley, she tweeted out the following. Notable from the boards, Annan suggests reading the placeholders from the bottom up believe this is the sequence of what's to come. Now, when Annan decided to take all the placeholders and say, this is the order we believe this is going to happen. And this is OIG report finding, OIG, FBI, Department of Justice, media, OIG report, foreign assistance, OIG report, foreign inserts, OIG report, FISA abuse, and so on. The next one is the D-class. The next one is the 5I publication and FISA publication. The next one is acts of treason, foreign acts, branch termination, also those who are leaking. The next one is Supreme Court ruling, challenges. The other one is Supreme Court ruling, USA versus Deaf appeals. The next one is the indictment tracking. Then the other one is indictment tracking for civilian and non-civilian. And this is the order the Annan believes this is going to happen once everything starts moving, where everything starts to come out. So you can see that DC, they are panicking, they are trapped, and something big is about to happen. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.